Tiffany from Life of Lee's, and today I want to talk to you guys about what to teach your child when you're feeling totally lost, whether you're just starting out or not, whether your child is 5 or 15. I just wanted to help you find a sort of path to follow if you are really struggling and lost of what to teach and when and that kind of thing. So that is what we are going to talk about today. I do not think because a child is 8 that they should be learning multiplication, or that since a child is 5 they should be learning about the Mayflower, etc. Whatever it is. I believe that there's generally a certain path to learning, that path being to start at the beginning of whatever subject you're working on and moving through till the end. Now there are exceptions to the rule, those exceptions being that perhaps you taught a subject to your child and your child just does not get it all. They're not comprehending it all, they didn't pick up any of it, so you can't really move on to the next thing if your child doesn't understand the previous thing. So you might need to repeat that subject and probably repeat it in some sort of different way, right? So that they will get it. Or perhaps your child is just a genius and they picked up a book on quantum physics when they were 5 years old and in hours they understood quantum physics. The other exception to this rule is that I believe that we should follow each child's own interests and desires, and at times that might take us veering way off the path that we have set up for us, and that's okay. Well, we all need a starting place and some kind of guide of some sorts to help us to make sure that we don't leave many gaps, or a guide to help us find the next place when we veered way off course because our child just became obsessed with some certain idea. So maybe you went way off course and now you're like, okay, now we're done learning about this, now where do we go? So you could go back to your laid out path of the subjects that you feel you need to teach and in what order, and kind of jump back into where you had left off before veering off, right? Now sometimes I may refer to grade levels, but please know that I don't literally mean if your child is in 5th grade that you must teach them this or some such thing. I'm just using ages and grades at times to help show a sort of path. When it comes to some high school courses, I will talk about what subjects per grade or per age, and that's because some colleges will expect them to have studied these topics. But again, that doesn't mean that a 15-year-old should be sophomore and should be taking sophomore classes. Maybe they're advanced beyond that, maybe they're not quite ready for that. But it's just to kind of help you lay out that path and kind of see it in your mind. Maybe if you're starting out with a 9th grader, I don't know. I'm hoping this is making sense at all. I don't know. In my mind, it does, because these are my thoughts, but when you're trying to explain it to others, sometimes it doesn't come across clearly. So I might just completely be wasting all this time doing this filming because it might make no sense whatsoever. Let's talk about where this natural path should take us, or what it will look like through the subjects. So first of all, what are the subjects, right? I'm just gonna give you the basic subjects. There's so much more to learn, of course, but we were just talking about the basic subjects. These are generally things that most people should know, have at least some sort of knowledge about. So we have history, we have science, geography, government, language arts, math. There are other things that you should perhaps teach, and those are things like life skills, health, foreign language, art, and any other subject you or your child could think of or find yourselves interested in. But this video is about those main subjects. Okay, so that's what we're talking about in this video, is those main subjects that I listed earlier: history, science, geography, government, language arts, and math. All the rest of those subjects are a whole other ball game in my mind. There's just so much more. These subjects are basically straightforward in my mind. The way I see them, they're basically straightforward. A natural path is pretty straightforward. Hopefully that makes sense to you. We're going to start with the top of the list, which was of subjects, which was history. And history to me is very straightforward. You want to start with the beginning, right? Makes sense that if you're going to study history, you're going to start with the beginning and make sure you know what happened in the beginning and going forward. Now, whatever your beliefs are about how everything began, it doesn't matter, okay? I really don't think it matters. You should teach your child everything you possibly can. So I recommend teaching them at least the base theories on how the whole world began. And yes, I believe you should start how the world began. And like I said, I don't think it matters what your beliefs are. You should you want to teach your children enough that they can think for themselves, that they can comprehend other people's point of views, that they understand what people are talking about when they bring up other subjects. So it's still important to cover all those base theories of how the world began. And there's nothing wrong with you telling them, of course, what your beliefs are and why you think one is wrong or right, or, putting your 2 cents in at all, because that's, again, part of our job. But it's also, I believe, it is wrong not to teach them everything that's out there and let them pull it apart and learn the facts and understand and make choices for themselves. And the other thing is, having all the information just helps us to be able to make better choices and use our own minds and our own imagination to solve problems and come up with our own theories or fix the gaps in the theories. There's so many reasons why it's important that our children know, that we allow our children to learn about as much as they can and are willing to. I just keep going. See, I'm flying off blah, 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 blah. It's so hard for me to just... Okay, so base theories like, creationism. Obviously, creationism is that the world was created by, another being, right? Whether that be God or any other being. So creationism, you have the Big Bang theory followed by evolution. So start at the very beginning and you simply work your way through the years till modern history. You can break it into time periods if you want, or you can simply just read and talk and create your way through step by step or year by year. It's how you go about it and learn is obviously up to you. But I do think start at the beginning and you work your way through the years, and that can look like so many different ways that you might do that. I recommend, if you're really one of those people or maybe you're just starting, or you just really don't have time or energy, or whatever the reason might be, that you can't just simply pull something together yourself or pull pieces here and there, and you just really want some kind of base platform to guide you through beginning to end, I would recommend something like Story of the World for a good platform that you can build upon if you need that base. Now we're going on to the next subject, which is science. So we're going to start with kindergarten. So when your child is first at that true age, whatever that might be, that you're going to start their education. And this is, to me, this is the place where you kind of go broad spectrum. You're going to teach them the basics about all the little things that they interact with, that they're going to be a part of now very soon within their life. So, you're going to talk about weather, basic earth science, soil, rocks, water, plants, the human body, things like taking care of your teeth, eating right, basically an introduction and exploring those things that a child at that age might see, feel, hear every day. So you might be going, well, what if I'm starting with a child's in 9th grade, and so where do I start if they've been in public school or something and I don't know what they've learned? Well, that's a great question. Sit down with the child and talk to them. See what they know. See what they don't know. Just have some discussions. See what they're interested in. Okay, that's one of those exceptions where you might not want to start all the way back at basic earth science and weather. Okay, so then we're looking after kindergarten. Once you've had that just beginning basic introduction to all those kinds of things that they are going to see, feel, hear on a regular everyday basis. Then we're into, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade. So those elementary years. You're going to start wanting to go further into depth about these things, like the things that you had already, just touched on briefly before with your kindergarten age child. I would suggest starting close to home and building out, right? So what is that? What do I mean by that? Starting close to home is what's close to them, the human body, right? So that's something that is with them all the time. They obviously have a body. It's very important that they have a good understanding of that. So I would start learning about the human body and, work your way out from there, what's around them. Maybe next you're going to just talk about the earth, everything that to do with the earth. And then you're going to go on to space, from closest out. Every year I would cover all of these subjects, base subjects, just getting a little bit more in depth on each and doing more experiments, such things. So, kindergarten, you just really basic. This is dirt, and in the dirt there's rocks and little, very basic. And each year, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, when you talk about earth science, you're going to get a little bit more in depth. You're going to do a little bit more mature experiments and that kind of thing. And so you can each year, like I said, just cover all those kind of base subjects from building close to out and getting more in depth. Or you could, have a list of the base subjects that your child is going to interact with and experience in some shape or form, and plan to study in depth maybe one thing each year even, such as spending a year studying all about space and everything that involves. And of course you can go into that so much that it just all comes in and back around and loops around on itself, right? Because that's the way science works. When you learn about space, well, space also falls into the earth and about us, and it all kind of lapses in on each other at some point, right? But how you break it down or do it is up to you. Perhaps spending a year studying one topic each quarter even. I believe that these young ages can learn and understand so much, but it's best to build upon that knowledge and relearn as well, so to speak. Because as they grow, their ability to comprehend any material will grow. So each year you're adding upon what they've already learned, and there'll be a lot of those aha moments where for them it just all comes together and clicks. Kids are a lot like puppies in that, when our puppy chews up chewing on a pillow or something, we tell them, we're like, no, don't do that. We correct the puppy, we stop the puppy, we draw their attention elsewhere, maybe get them another chew toy or something, and we do it over and over and over and over again until finally, they're at that point where they don't do that anymore. They know they're not supposed to, and you don't have that problem anymore. And children are much the same in that way, and that falls into their learning too, where a lot of times they just need to practice it over and over, but not necessarily in the exact same way, right? But relearning that information and experiencing that material over and over, and they get a better understanding. They pick up on things they didn't. It sinks in more, and they're going to remember more things and that kind of stuff. So you are spending a lot of time in those early years repeating a lot of information, but in different ways and in greater depth. So then that brings us into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, those middle school ages, the preteen years, right? In no particular order, I believe that the middle school years should, those 3 preteenish years or so should be focused on the following subjects. And the focus should be on one area each year. That would be my suggestion. So maybe when they're 11, 12, 13 or so, you're going to take a year to really focus and learn about these things. And that would be earth and space science. Okay, so you'd spend a year maybe really learning everything you can about earth and space science, a year of life science, and a year of physical science. Now we get into high school, and high schoolers would normally follow a path like this: biology, chemistry, and physics or earth physical science, studying one per year. And so when we talk high school, again, you can learn anything you want, but I think a lot of people have concerns about, college, and it's really not a concern. It's not so difficult for a homeschooler to get into college or university or anything. But if that is a big concern, and maybe your child doesn't know exactly what they want to do or don't know what they want to do at all, so the best way to go might be to just make sure that they get those base subjects that other high school age children, public or private, are getting. And with science, that would look like biology, chemistry, and physics or earth physical science, okay? And a year of studying. And with high school, you really want it to be lab heavy. And I think that's important for all years. I think that it makes it more enjoyable, and it helps kids to understand what is being talked about. But in high school, looking forward to college or university, I think it's definitely important that any science studies is a lot of lab work. What about geography? What should kids know? Well, I think what kids should know overall about geography is pretty basic. There's a lot to geography, of course, but I think what we want to make sure kids know is pretty basic. Everyone should have a basic knowledge of land formations, continents and oceans, and where they are in relation to these places, how to read a map. You get the idea, right? Everyone should know that kind of stuff. There's so much more to geography, and how much you and your child learn and discover together is completely dependent upon the two of you. But here are some pointers of a natural path that you could follow. Again, if you're totally lost, right? I will suggest, again, you would start from what is closest, what your child can see and experience, and build outwards from there. It can help to have a base knowledge to build upon, though. So I would recommend that you start by talking about very simple things, right? So you talk about some very simple things to give your child that base to build upon, so that they can then understand, well, what are you even talking about here, So you want to teach them very simple things like, what is home? What is a town? What is a state? What is a country? What are streets, highways, freeways? Very basic. And this could be kindergarten, first grade, that you're helping them to build that understanding by saying, hey, this is our home. This is where we live. Maybe they draw a picture of it. And then, they draw the street around it, right? And this is our neighborhood. So here's our house, and here's our neighborhood, and this is the street on our neighborhood. And then next, maybe you draw the town, right? Well, here's our house, and this is our neighborhood, and this is the street we live on. And this is our whole town. And in our town, there's all these houses, and these are the streets that run through our town. And then again, beyond that. So you're just building out. But of course, you want to make sure that they understand what some of those basic things mean before you even begin. You want them to understand what even is a town, what even is a road, what even is a highway, what is a mountain, you want them to know that. Lands and bodies of water, so formations, names, and how to recognize them. So it'd be pretty embarrassing if your child couldn't really describe what a lake was, or recognize that something was a lake and not the ocean, right? So it's important that they have an understanding of land formations and what they are and how to recognize them. Reading maps, of course. It's important to read a map. I know with today's day and age with technology and everything, but you just never know what can happen or where someone can end up or what kind of situation they could be in. And it's an important skill to have. So reading maps. What are states, countries, continents, oceans, rivers, lakes? Learn about the country you live in. Okay, so after they've gotten all these very basic things, then I would, again, working in and out, what country do you live in? Study that country you live in. What continent is your country on? Okay, so you learn about the continent you live on, the surroundings to that continent. So you're going to learn about all you can about what's around it. Then from there, after you've learned about all you know about your town and country and the continent you live on and the surrounding bodies of water and land, then you would learn about all the individual continents and go in depth about each continent. And then you'd start talking about cultures and religions, such as languages, clothing, etc., all the things, because geography isn't just about physical land formations and stuff, right? It's about the people and their religions, their beliefs, their practices. There's so much wonderful, beautiful things to learn about with geography. So, you just start at home, work your way out, make sure they have basic understanding of those concepts, and just teach them about the world. And at whatever age, whatever place, and if they suddenly are just fascinated by, the Japanese culture, study the Japanese culture with them. Teach them about it. Really run with that enthusiasm or excitement or interest in whatever that they have. And when you've learned everything you feel that you can about that, then step back and go, okay, where do we leave off? What are we going to learn about now? I would plan to follow this general path and kind of keep track of what we've studied so that we can fill in the gaps where we need it if we do get sidetracked or, find something particularly inspiring and want to go study that, so that we'd have that new starting place when we are then again going, where do we go now? Keep it simple and let it just flow naturally as much as possible. Expect your child's understanding of things and the studying of things to become more in depth with age. But in the beginning, just keep it simple and fun, and they will pick up on it. And don't feel deterred if they don't seem to be understanding something. Just bring it up again. Do some kind of artwork or experiment or go somewhere or some way to reintroduce them to that topic, as with all of them. Okay, don't feel discouraged. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes they're just not ready for it. Sometimes they have learned about it, know it, and you just don't understand or see that they do yet. By the way, my shirt says, "The struggle is real." So funny. I don't know. It cracks me up. So the next subject that was on the list that I said we were going to discuss is government. And I definitely feel that it is very important for everybody to have not just a basic understanding of government. It is very important for that, but to have as in-depth of an understanding of our government as you can, whether our government being here in the US or maybe you live in another country. Whatever the government is for the country you live in, extremely important. Okay, I'm rambling again. We're going to get back to this. Here, I would start a little bit differently than perhaps the norm as far as I've been saying with other subjects. I tend to do a sort of step-by-step process. But I feel here it's important to have a historical understanding first, okay? So that's where I would start. I would learn the history of our government where you live. So like I said, normally I start with those little stepping stones. So you might have thought, well, she's going to say, make sure they have an understanding of what, the president means or prime minister means or, whatever different titles and what the different bodies of government are. No. I think it is important, first of all, that you know the history of your government. So rewind, go back, make sure your child learns about the history of the government where they live. I wouldn't start this at a very young age though. I would wait till maybe even 4th or 5th grade. Maybe a little bit younger, maybe even a little bit older, depending on your child. But I would not really start teaching government very young. Now, if you live in the US, teaching your child, the Pledge of Allegiance, those kind of basic things, sure, start that young. But starting real government studies and the history of your government, I'd wait. I would focus on the history of your government, and then you're going to expand out to learn about other countries. But I think first you want to learn about your government. You don't have to go super in depth as this isn't your history course, and you can obviously add this to your actual history. So you can put that into play into your actual history that you're learning, and once maybe you get to that point in your history and you've learned that, then you would start studying government. You could totally separate it, or you can plan to do like a double coverage and you'll kind of go over that again in your history, but for your government you really are going to start off with that being your sole focus, however you choose to do that. But at least make sure that some base governmental history is established, at least. From there, you'll want to study your government from the ground up, right? So you're going to start at the lowest government positions. What are the titles? What does that mean? What do they do? So you'll talk about what these positions are, why they are there, how these government agencies and agents affect your child, how they can access them, and how they work together. And last, you're going to talk about modern government, right? So you learn at least some base history of your government. You study the government starting at the lowest agencies and agents and what they can and cannot do for your child, how they affect them, and how your child can access them and those services and get information from them or reach out to them and give their input, all those kind of things. Because what use is the government if you don't know how to use it? Because the government is supposed to be for the people. And lastly, you talk about your modern government. So once you've learned history and what all those things are and those people and blah, 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 then you learn about your modern government. What's going on in your government? What in the last few years, what's happened? anything that you feel is important and vital for your child to understand, because from historical to now, there's probably going to be some difference. Whether there should be or not, there will be. And again, this, like most subject, is something you are going to repeat over the years after you start it. Maybe you don't start it really till 5th grade. So 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, there's government education going on. But you don't need to cover all the aspects every year. So maybe 5th grade, you just spend some time learning about the history of your government. In 6th grade, you learn about the different government agencies, and on and on. Or you just kind of go briefly over it all, and then the next year you kind of go over it more in depth and whatever. I think you get what I'm saying. But I definitely think government's very important for all of us to learn about. And then we have language arts, and this is my favorite. Language arts compromises so many things. It can be a bit overwhelming because it covers so much. Reading, writing, grammar, on and on and on and on. Really, there's so many things that it is, and you can come into play, and yeah, it's a lot. But you will find that much of it naturally builds upon itself. It really does nicely roll into one package instead of the many pieces it seems to be at first when you're first looking at it. Especially when you're, like, let's say you decide you're going to homeschool in 3rd grade, and all of a sudden you're like, language arts. So we have to do grammar, and we have to do writing, we need to do poetry, we need to do reading, we need to do spelling, vocabulary. It could seem like a lot, right? But it really does all work together, and it doesn't have to be as many pieces as you might think. First things first, though, teach your child to read. Okay, I really believe that number one, and some people might think differently, but with language arts, I believe the very first thing that you need to do is teach your child to read. I'm assuming at this point they know how to speak. Okay, because otherwise that would be first, right? You want to make sure that they can speak. So teach your child to read. I don't care if your child is reading at 4 or 9 years old. Doesn't make a difference what age they start reading. I do not recommend trying to teach your child any of the other things until they are fluent in reading. So again, I don't care if they're fluently reading at 4 or 9. If your child is 7 years old and is still not fluently reading, I don't suggest trying to teach them all the other stuff yet. I think you're going to just be like treading water and going nowhere. Am I saying that they have to be super amazing readers? No, I'm not saying that they have to be some amazing readers reading at college reading level already. But you want them to be able to read fluently without a whole lot of like stuttering over themselves and a whole lot of sounding things out. You want them to be, for the most part, able to kind of read through pretty steadily. Slow and steady is good. Yeah, they should be able to read most anything, even if they're reading it slowly. And once they can read, then it is time to move on to learning all the other things. So you might be thinking, though, at this point, you might be thinking, well, how do I teach my child to read? I feel ya, because when I had to teach my child to read, I was really scared and like nervous and like, oh man, that was really hard, like the first time. And now that I've gotten through that, I feel like, okay, I feel more relaxed about it. And if I was starting back then, knowing what I would know now, I wouldn't have been so freaked out and like stressed out about my child not learning to read quickly enough or something. There's no one solid answer of how to teach your child to read, because I found that children are often very different. And what might work well for one child might not work at all. So some kids will almost just naturally start reading without much instruction. And seriously, that really does happen, because I was one of those kids. Like, I really just started reading. My mom like always read to me, my sister read to me, and I just remember like looking over their shoulder and just being like, oh, these are the words, And by the time I was in 1st grade, I was like college reading level. I was not a genius or anything like that. I just loved reading, and it came naturally to me. And so that's why I was so apprehensive about teaching my kids, because I thought, I have no idea how to teach somebody, because no one even had to teach me. There's some kids that even you'll try, okay, well, we'll do phonics, and maybe they just really need to just focus down the phonics and like learning the sounds these letters make together, even though they don't always follow the rules, as we know. But even some kids then will just just seem forever to like take forever learning even basic sounds of phonics. Every kid is different. Some children can just study 2, then 3, then 4 letter words on and on, memorizing them until they are reading. And to just do a little, work with phonics and, learning just maybe a little more time learning to spell or something. Every kid's different. And then you have those other kids that are reading fluently by 5 and you're less like, wow, that's amazing. But they struggle through everything else in school or something. There's just no one answer. And don't freak out if your kid is not reading by 5 or is, just suddenly is fluent reading at 8 or whatever. It's okay. It is okay. So what I recommend is that you just try many different ways. I would just do all kinds of different little things, and if my child seems interested in one, I would keep doing that, and if suddenly they're not interested anymore, I'd stop and I'd do something else, or I would probably do most time a mix of things like, studying, learning phonics and doing some sight words and playing games and of course reading to them. So just try all the little things and just keep doing them, keep telling them the sounds letters make, keep telling them that says that says that. I know how many times you might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind because I've told them 40 times that word is the. Why can't they just remember that? Just keep telling them. They will get it. They will get there. And I just find that when they're ready, when their brains are ready and they make those connections and it just clicks, they will do it. And some kids just want to read more than others too, which is what I'm finding with my 4-year-old. She just really wants to read all of a sudden. And in like one day, she memorized 2 books. And I was like, your older sister, I like read it with her 30 times and she couldn't remember it. Some things you can try. You can try some programs or curriculum that you can look into and see if it'll work for you if you're interested. There's Spelling You See, Teach My Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons is a book that you can purchase like on Amazon for like $9 or $12. There's All About Reading. There's Reading Eggs, ABC Mouse. There's so many things, and there's free things out there. There's YouTube videos. There's you could just print off letters and trace them and tell them the sounds, and buying Bob's books and doing the memorization with that because they have like little pictures to help remind them of the words. Those are the ones that my youngest daughter likes, and she just, like I said, you go through them one time with her and suddenly she can read the book. Or you can simply read to them and make your own flashcards of sight words or phonics. Many, many ways. So once you've taught your child to read, now it is time to start building in little steps. Those little tiny steps again. Again, doesn't matter if they're 4 or 9 or whatever, it's same process, same thing. So after they have learned to read, now you're going to start studying spelling and phonics. You can purchase programs, you can just write your own lists, you can work your way through the dictionary. I don't really care how you do it. I don't think it really matters whether you start with little words or what. From what I've noticed, most of the time, just study little bits of words at a time, use them in sentences, talk about what they mean, talk about spelling with them, and just practice. And there are spelling programs like Spelling Power or Spelling You See that are wonderful. They might work for you. Then on top of that, and some of these things you can do kind of like at the same time, but you might want to just do some spelling and vocabulary. Once you feel like their spelling's improved and they have a better grasp on vocabulary, which they probably already do from reading, then you're going to want to talk about what are nouns and verbs and adjectives and adverbs and What are those? So when someone says, give me an adverb, your child won't be the only one that can't give an adverb for the Mad Lib. What are periods, commas, question marks, exclamations, okay? And once they then are getting better at spelling and vocabulary, they know what nouns, verbs, adjectives are, they know what a period, comma is, exclamation mark, then start sentence building. Then once they can write some sentences, they're doing pretty good, they seem to have a grasp on, writing sentences, add in and move on to writing paragraphs, writing various papers, small stories, biographies, research papers. Just learn the basic idea behind writing various kinds of papers. Study poetry and plays. And from here, let them write and write and write. Okay, so once you've done all these things, you kind of walked them through and taught them how to write these different types of papers, and they've just learned some different formats and way things flow. Just let them write. Whether you're giving them prompts or just letting them go at it, just let them write. Give them the prompts, like I said, let them explore completely alone. Just let them write, read what they're writing, and be very careful about marking up their papers. You want to correct them, you want to teach them, but let them have the writing that they do that does not get correction. From a young age to forever, let them have certain writing that they do that does not receive corrections, and then let them have writings that they do that are submitted to you and marked. Now, you're going to read all the papers and monitor them and have discussions with them, but don't be using your red pen to, oh, you should have had a period here, or that comma doesn't go there, that kind of stuff. Don't do that on all their papers. Have some assignments that do, and have some where they just have that freedom to write and read it to you and talk to you about it. Okay, it means a lot. You'll see a lot of growth in them because they'll want to write. It's key right there. I talked about it and now I'm like looking at my notes and it's telling me to say that, but I went on blah blah blah. And the other thing that with language arts, so looking back a little bit, once they begin writing of any kind, so whether it's, just spelling or sentences, but once they begin writing, that's when you're going to work on handwriting. Now, you kind of work on handwriting younger years, you might just have them trace the lines and that kind of thing, or, trace the O, that basic stuff. That's really more about like coordination. But really working on handwriting, you're going to do that when they start writing. Simple, show them over and over how to form the letters in print. And when that has been mastered, then you teach them cursive. And I would literally just have whatever kind of paper you want them to use. You grab your marker, whatever, and on the board or on paper in front of them, you show them how to form the letters. And you say, we're going to start here, and we come around up to where we started and back down, and that is our A, lowercase a or whatever. And then you show them a couple times. You maybe have them trace yours, and then you have them write a few of their own. You show them which one you liked best that they did. You maybe say, oh, I really like how you're doing this, but make sure that you come back up to where you started, and you just work your way through the alphabet. Okay, A to Z. And you just every day do one or two letters maybe in print, and you get to the end and you start back at the beginning. And when you feel that, hey, their handwriting's looking pretty good, they're remembering how to form the letters, I'm not making any corrections really, I think they're ready to move on, they have a firm grasp on print, that is when you start cursive practice. Or also kind of when they say, I want to learn cursive, but even if they don't say that, I think they should learn cursive. Okay, but you're the mom or dad or whoever that is teaching them. And with cursive, it's the same thing. Give them whatever kind of paper you want them to be writing them on, and you show them how to form the letters. And if you don't want to do that, you can certainly very easily look online, and there's all kinds of printables for handwriting that you can just print off for free, or you can even purchase something for $10 or something that has them all ready to go and they just follow along. I like to do it myself really because I find there's always different ways to form letters in print and especially in cursive, and I want them doing it my way, right? So you do not need a handwriting program, but you certainly can get one if you choose to. Our next subject that we're going to talk about is math. Oh, glorious math. Have someone teach them math. Okay, have someone else teach them. That's how we do that. Okay, obviously math is not my favorite subject, and the reason why is because I find it very agitating to teach. I don't find math difficult. I wouldn't even say that I don't like doing math, because I kind of, even when I was younger, did enjoy like solving math problems, that kind of stuff. I just can't stand teaching it. To me, math is very straightforward. When I learned it, it was like, when you see this symbol, it means that you do this. Okay, so that's what I did, and I did it, and that's the answer, and okay, no problem. But I find that some people, or a lot of people even, it's not that simple. It's not just like this symbol means you do this, so you do this. And they don't just remember it like that. Part of it being memory abilities, and the other part being that some people just want to break everything apart. They want to know why. Well, I'm not generally one of those people. Certainly not with math. So it's like someone told me that that's how you do it, so that's how I'm going to do it. I don't need to understand all the whys, and it doesn't need to make sense in my mind of why. I just do it. And I was able to just remember those patterns. That's just the way my mind works. And so my children aren't so much that way. And so when they don't just get it, I don't know how to explain it to them. I don't know how to make it make sense in their mind. And that gets very frustrating for me. Since it gets frustrating for me, and I just have a hard time explaining something beyond this means you do this and this is how you do it. And when that doesn't click, and I just don't know how else to tell you, right? And repeating it over and over only frustrates my child when I'm not giving them some new information. And so I use a program called Teaching Textbooks. This program really largely allows a child to learn on their own, although sometimes they do need your help, but I've found, even for me, that that's not an issue. It doesn't really start though until second grade. So with my other children, I used Horizons for kindergarten and first grade, or even pre-K kindergarten and first grade. And luckily, those first couple of years of math are just really simple and really easy to teach and learn and explain for the most part. So that was okay. So anyways, where to start and what to teach next and next and next and next in math. Okay, so the subjects, and whether you use a program or you just sit down and teach them yourself, because you can certainly do that. You do not have to have a math program. You don't have to have a program for anything. So this is kind of the general sequence, and of course there's stuff in between there. I'm not going to be able to cover every single little tiny thing, but I find that if you kind of know let's say you had this list of these things to teach them, those other things, again, kind of naturally work into there. They just kind of pop up and happen naturally. So number recognition, of course, number recognition and comprehension, practicing counting things, writing the numbers. I recommend doing it in increments of 10. So, you do 1 through 10, and once that has been mastered, then you do 1 through 20, and on and on and on, right? This next thing is adding and subtracting single digits. Then reading a clock. Recognizing and understanding money, cash and change. Recognizing shapes, months and days and weeks. Having some, concept of time beyond just the ticking clock. And all that stuff is really like kindergarten. Perhaps even first grade stuff, depending on your child. But that's the very basics, getting that ground, right? Then you move on to adding and subtracting double and triple digits, carrying, rounding and estimating, graphing, word problems, place value and fractions, multiplication and division of single digits, multiplication and division of double digits, measuring angles, area and perimeters, units for length, liquid, weight, in-depth fractions, improper, proper, equivalent, multiplying, dividing, blah, 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 blah. Finding factors, finding percentages, more in-depth of all the above, and preparing for pre-algebra. Pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. That is the max necessary. So I think that every child, every person should at least have math up to algebra 2. I also recommend doing life or business math of some kind before graduating your child. If your child is advanced in math, if they've moved through the subjects quicker, then you could do pre-calculus, calculus, trigonometry, the more difficult stuff. But it is not required or necessary. Did I cover every little thing your child can learn? Absolutely not. Did I cover everything your child should learn? No. That would take a lot longer to cover, but this is a great starting place and a place to understand what your kids probably should know at various stages of their education, or at least know before graduating high school. There are so many ways to go about things and to learn things and things to learn about and on and on and on. And I'm sorry I keep looking down so much. It's kind of hard for me not to right now. I think it's partly because I'm tired. Uh, But if you're totally lost, I hope that this has helped you find some kind of path or some footing. Perhaps just feel a sense of relief that it isn't as complicated as you thought if you're just starting out and you're freaking yourself out. If you're still lost, talk to other homeschool families, talk to educators. There's a lot of educators that I know personally that have or that do homeschool their own children. Research education. Just go ahead, just look up education online, learn about the different methods of education. Read some books on education, whether they're homeschool books or not. Look into Innovation Playlist. Innovation Playlist is amazing. Read studies and statistics about what kids know and when, but don't hold your child or yourself to that. But just, to help you, give you some ideas and some place to go if you're still feeling lost. Look into the future and decide for yourself what your child may need to know to survive in the world 15 years from now. Obviously, you can't know that. We can't really see into the future and know 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what our child will need to know and be able to do to survive in the future, because we don't know what the future is going to look like. But you can kind of, take some kind of idea. That technology is doing nothing but advancing and growing within our life and being used more widely in our life. So that might be something that you might jot down for yourself, and just the technology. Like, what can we learn about it? How can we incorporate that into our lives? Because I really think that is something my child is going to need in order to survive in their life as an adult. There's just so many avenues to look into, and there's so much information out there, good and bad information, but there's a lot of information out there. I always say, research everything for yourself. Keep an open mind, keep your ears open to what people are saying, but still be yourself. Think about your family and your child and you, and do what you know is right and best. Follow your instincts, your heart. Don't get taken down by some of those things that are out there. That might be things that are different for you than for me, that might really just bring you down or confuse you. But you still want to be open-minded, and you want to be learning too. And so you want to take a lot of the stuff that's out there into consideration. But above all, I really want you to know that you can do this. If you really love and care about your child, and you want what's best for them, and you believe that what is best for them is to homeschool them, then you can teach your child. You can homeschool them. You can absolutely do this. And best of luck to you and yours. Please, feel free to leave any questions you might have about something I said or something that I completely totally forgot about. Leave comments if you disagree with something I said or agree with something I said. Talk about it. Share your thoughts, not just for me, but for other people that might come across this video and might be looking through the comments for some more advice or inspiration or whatever. Please speak up, say your piece. I would love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up so I know that this is something that, somebody was finding useful, and so that I can continue to kind of put this kind of material out there to help and be there for anybody who might need it. And because if no one's looking at it or giving a thumbs up, I don't know that anybody needs it. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'm going to do my best to get more informational sit-down videos up. And I also have been vlogging our homeschool days as an easy way for me to share with people about homeschooling and give some inspiration or what they could or couldn't do, or what a homeschool day might or might not look like. I just thought that could be helpful to some people, and I probably will continue to do that, but right now I'm taking a little break from that to get some other things done. Thank you so much for hanging out. Hopefully I'm able to edit this video down because it says we're at 1 hour and 17 seconds already. But anyways, I've rambled enough. So with that, I will say bye.